Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about some things you may have missed from the Black Ops 4 beta. There have been some big changes under the hood to Call of Duty that were subtle but will have big ramifications later on, and those are the things that I mostly wanted to talk about, and a few hidden items or underused items, of course, as well. The number one thing that I wanted to talk about is that bullets are now projectiles, sort of. All of the bullets in the game appear to function much more like the bullets in Battlefield or PUBG or pretty much any other big battle royale game, in that they're not exactly hit scans anymore. It seems a lot like Islands of Nine, which one of its best and smartest mechanics is that they decided to make bullets hit scans up to a certain range, and then after that range they would instantly convert into projectiles in sort of a compromised system, so that it is kind of frustrating when you're playing Battlefield and when you have close range projectiles, but it makes a lot more sense in long range. Well, Call of Duty is doing the exact same thing, and it's very noticeable on your submachine guns. When you shoot them, they appear to be instant killing or instant hitting hit scans for a certain range, and then after so many meters or feet or yards or whatever the unit is for that particular weapon, it will swap over to a ballistic projectile that has a certain travel speed, so you have to lead targets. If you want to try to shoot down a helicopter with a submachine gun, this will be very, very visible, and they don't appear to have any drop ranges, or at least not very much, and the projectiles do, in multiplayer at least, appear to be very fast overall. Of note, sniper rifles are always projectiles. They're very fast and accurate projectiles, but sniper rifles don't appear to have a hit scan range. They're just always firing projectiles, and there's a hierarchy of this too. Light machine guns are hit scans for longer ranges than assault rifles, which are hit scans for longer ranges than submachine guns, and of course the higher caliber weapons travel faster once they turn into projectiles. My assumption is that this system is in place as a balance against mapping people with SMGs and, really high fire rate ARs or pistols or things, which has kind of always been a problem in Call of Duty, but also in order to get people used to Blackout. It's there for consistency, and the idea comes from Fortnite, like they have the higher tier weapons, whereas in Fortnite the higher tier weapons generally aren't much more accurate or have different blooms or handling properties, because they don't want people to get used to one particular kind of weapon and then they pick up a different tier and it handles wrong. I think that Treyarch wants to preserve this same thing so that the weapons handle the same in multiplayer as they do in Blackout. Speaking of consistency, the game has Predictive Recoil, which means that the weapons are much, much more predictable in the recoil. It's not 100% perfect, there is still some randomness to it, but you can master the recoil, you can get good with it. It's much easier to learn and to counteract each kick and wobble and shot. The downside, though, is that, at least on PlayStation, it's made keyboarding really, really easy. You can plug in a keyboard and mouse to any PlayStation with native support. I ran into some guys doing that with the Spitfire, and it was just downright wrong. It was really, really, really brutal. I think that might actually be an oversight, and I have no idea how it's going to pan out on PC either. And then again, PC's always been kind of crazy. People have always just been able to aim really well on Call of Duty on PC. Another neat thing about weapons is that stopping power is back on some guns and in a different name. You know the high caliber is back. High caliber, it means increased damage to the heads and you have less headshots required to kill. Well, on some weapons, you can also equip High Caliber 2, which will allow you to get that same increased headshot multiplier for upper chest, and in some cases, even on the stomach or torso. The exact areas and the exact availability of the attachments are weapon specific, but there is stopping power on at least one of the sniper rifles and on the Rampart assault rifle, or in this case the Mozu pistol as well basically has stopping power on one single attachment. The high caliber on that one, just high caliber 1, gives it to the head and upper body. It's kind of nice to have. It gives each weapon a nice specific feel, it makes them powerful, and it doesn't feel broken yet because I don't know how many people are using it yet. We're gonna find out how many people are gonna be using it in the future and how that plays out balance-wise. But yeah, it does appear that some weapons allow for what is basically stopping power to be equipped if you have good aim. It's also way harder to wallbang in this game, especially without AP rounds 2. AP rounds 2 is the same as old FMJ, but I noticed that I had a very hard time shooting people through walls or even light cover. Machine guns were submachine guns were basically useless. Some rifles could shoot through walls a little bit, and the LMG was a little bit better, but in general I don't bother shooting through walls without AP rounds 2. I think that this was done as a reaction to pros shooting through what they called paper walls in World War II at launch and in some some areas in Black Ops 3 and 2. It also helps prevent Recon's Vision Pulse from being completely broken, because if you had very easy wall penetration and then you put FMG on top of that, you could Vision Pulse and then just shoot across the map and kill people. Another very neat attachment that a lot of people overlooked, well, maybe they overlooked it for a reason, it's not super useful, but it is neat, is Stock 2. Now, I only use Stock 2 on rifles, not a lot on any of the other weapons, but Stock 2 allows you to move at the same speed as standing when you crouch. So when you're standing and strafing, you move at a certain speed, and when you crouch, it's slower. Well, with Stock 2, you can just crouch and move at the same speed, so there's no penalty. So there's this guy crouching all over the map super, super fast. I can't say it's very useful all the time, but it is kind of hilarious, and it can definitely be used to confuse people. I got some use out of it a couple of places. They kind of would actually I don't know, it just felt like they couldn't hit me. I know I'm a smaller target when I was crouching, but it's like they didn't know how to handle this guy who was shimmying around on his knees super, super fast. Very briefly, there were quite a few guns that allowed you to equip Steady Aim 2. This is a hipfire hero's dream come true. It not only increases your hipfire tightness more, but allows you to have no penalty if you're moving, jumping, running, whatever. So it's kind of like turning any gun into a shotgun when it comes to hipfire. A lot of the audio cues in the games have changed. If you notice that guns are a lot louder, they crack, they pop, it kind of sounds like people are shooting off cannons, especially with the smoke. But the sounds are more directional than they have been in a long time, in the sense that if they're close to you, you're going to know exactly where they are, but they purposefully distort the sounds at longer ranges, a lot like what happens in PUBG. And when you run a suppressor, there's increased distortion that makes it even more vague as to where enemies are, which kind of makes me think that they're prepping this for Blackout. Almost certainly this is preparation for Blackout so that players can get used to identifying a range of a gun and a general location or a specificness so that you can hunt people down in Blackout. Huge reworks to the radar. I think most people have seen that, but I don't think a whole lot of people have tried Teamlink or the acoustic sensor. Very underrated perks. Teamlink is very funny. It allows you to see, I think, if I'm not mistaken, more of the radar, and it allows you to see what your teammates see on radar. It just shares information like crazy, and it's super powerful. The acoustic sensor allows you to tag people on radar through walls if they have loud, heavy feet. Also very useful, generally underutilized because people are going to be running armor instead. And there's this weird trade-off going on with special gear versus grenades. You may have noticed that there's not a lot of grenade spam in this game. It's because of the system that's been put in place. Also, grenades are a relatively high-level unlock for the beta. I think you have to get near to maximum level, like level 25, 28 or something, to unlock a regular grenade. But what's really weird is that you can get your specialist gear for free. Your sensor dart, your cluster grenade, your razor wire, your whatever sentry thing, whatever it is, you get it for free. But if you want to take a trophy system, a Molotov, a flashbang, a grenade, or something like that, it actually costs one of your pick 10 points. Which is kind of weird because I assumed that the special gear would also cost a pick 10 point. And you can't unequip the special gear either, which is a tad strange. I think they always want to keep that R1 doing something and not dead. Of course, you can run wildcards to carry more, but that's even more expensive. I'm not sure exactly what the goal here with this is. Maybe special gear should be free to encourage it. Maybe it shouldn't be free because then it discourages grenades. I'm not sure, but it is a weird thing I wanted to point out. Another thing I wanted to point out is that Black Ops 3's shoot and then punch melee system is back in option. Blops had this kind of system to where when you punch somebody, unless you hit them in the back, they would not die from melee. However, you could shoot them once and then punch very quickly, and the punches would deal 90 damage, and almost anything would deal more than 10, so shoot punch, and they die. Well, it's pretty much back in this game. Each punch is very, very high damage, and with basically any firearm or any little bit of damage, you can shoot punch very, very fast. However, you can't do the opposite. If you punch, there's a delay before you shoot, so there's an incentive to learn and master this, kind of like BXR and Halo. So when you get in close quarters combat, there is a thing that you can know how to do and do better, faster, smarter than the other person and win. I think we'll see more of it in the final game as well. There are weapons that have tack knives and bayonets. The pistol that you get to unlock has an operator mod that's a tactical knife, and the Vapor XKG, the Vapor X rifle, which I'm not sure, I think that's like level 29 or 30 you unlock, has a bayonet as well. So there will be some melee meta of baiting people into coming to punch you and then sticking them with a bayonet. The last neat thing I noticed is that obviously we have the new healing system, right? Healing is manual and you can do it the slow way or you can do it with stim and you have to choose when to do it. You do it one-handed or not, whatever. But there's also a whole meta going on of anti-healing items and anti-healing situations. Firebreak's radiation or radioactive core reactor thingy that he hits down irradiates a large area. It does a tiny amount of damage and it suppresses your vision a little bit, but what it does more than anything is causes you to be unable to heal for 15 seconds. Anytime you get burned, it's an anti-heal. It's sort of like something that would be applied like, I'm trying to think like on a splash dart in Overwatch. The Purifier also causes you to no heals if you live. Now the Purifier is not a guaranteed insta-hit anymore. There are some scenarios where you can be tickled by it and escape with very, very little health, but if you do, you won't be able to heal. The Dragon's Breath shotgun attachment doesn't increase the damage on the shotgun, but anybody you hit can't heal for 15 seconds. Also, taking any fall damage, choking in water, any kind of damage at all will mess up a heal. So if you're kind of like, if you stick to yourself to heal and then somebody shoots you in the toe, that kind of screws that up. But I do believe that there's going to be a meta coming for anti-healing weapons and situations. I think that there are going to be people, especially when it comes to the Dragon's Breath shotgun and Fire Breath's radiation core thingy, that are going to try to coordinate with teams and push the enemy team when they're unable to use their stims to heal. So that's going to be a big meta change. Guys, that is all for this video. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.